but it's not really a pod. It is a podcast, but this is more of the office hours edition. So it is after 6 p.m. and this is the last thing I'll do before I walk out this door to head back home. So I'm on a mission to put out content every single day and content around the work that I do as a school leader. And this is a request that's come from the two or three people who listen to me all the time who are asking for more contents that can be helpful in their pursuit of leadership or in their role as leaders right now. So, for those of you who don't already know, I am a middle school principal in the South Bronx. But not only that, I've been a principal 3 times over. This is my third school. I was first a middle school principal in District 12 in the Bronx, and then I was a high school principal in Brooklyn North High Schools in downtown Brooklyn, Park Slope, and now I am here in District 7. And my career has been primarily turnaround situations, whether it's a school that has some safety, violence, whatever issues, or a school that might have some more social emotional or just issues having to do with race or whatever the case may be, or just a school that's just had you know a bad hand in inconsistent leadership. But that's where I found myself being called into. My hairline's getting kind of crazy. I'm sorry. I'm over here looking at the camera, and those of you who are listening to the podcast, you're probably thinking, like, what is he talking about? But that's my ADHD kicking in. And yes, I do have ADHD, and I am dyslexic as well. This is the reality of me. But it hasn't stopped me from being successful in what I do as a school leader, and primarily as an educator. But so before I walk out this door, I just want to have a quick conversation with you about this topic that keeps on coming up over and over again, and this is the notion of fear, um, especially fear as it's connected to leadership. Um, so I've come across a lot of principals who are new to their role or they've been in their role for a while, and fear dictates the decisions that they make. And what I mean by fear is they're afraid of messing up, they're afraid of getting in trouble, they're afraid of getting people upset, they're afraid of their staff calling the union on them, they're afraid of, you know, missing a deadline, they're afraid of not keeping up with their emails. They're afraid of screwing up their school budget. They're afraid. It's like fear, fear, fear. They're fear. They're afraid of not being a good parent at home. They're afraid of not spending enough time at home. This is all these plethora of fears that they are always, battling against. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I've never had those issues. I have, but it's painful when I come across, and I'll say painful when I come across a school leader who is dealing with fear. But the problem with the fear is that they're dealing with is the fear itself is limiting their ability to make decisions, and limiting their abilities to be as good as they really are because they're so caught up with what could happen. So they don't make decisions that favors their actual school or their students. Um, and often that leads to them making mistakes or being having like decision paralysis. What is it called? Indecision paralysis, where you can't make a decision, so you end up not making a decision that leads to more problems in your school. So like these are the things that I see a lot of principals suffer through, and I ask myself, like, where does that come from? And I'll be honest with you, I've gone through that. I've gone through being in positions where I was like couldn't make a decision because I just didn't want to make the wrong decision. And and in those cases, luckily enough, um, I was able to fight through it and do what I need to do to make sure that I made the right decision for my school. But a lot of that had to do with my background. Having been in the military, having been in other spaces where decision making was crucial. So I knew that if I didn't make a decision, I didn't make that decision, bad things could happen in those other spaces. But in the school setting, um, maybe because there's so many perceived higher people in hierarchical positions who you are hoping to impress or even worse, not to get in trouble by, that you just like, I don't want to do that thing. But while you're doing that, your school is struggling, kids are struggling, families are looking at you saying, "Hey, how are you helping?" Your staff is looking at you like you're out of control, or we're out of control. You're not doing anything about it. So it's interesting because as a leader, one of the things that I do is I plan out everything. Like everything that I do, nothing is just on the whim. But more than anything else, like I'll give an example. The school I'm in right now, and please know, this is something that I've become better at over time. But the school I'm in right now, and I've shared this before. One of the first things that I did before I even stepped into the building was I did my homework. I approached this like a battle plan. I was like, okay, I need to survey the terrain. I need to know who's who, what's what has happened historically. But even better yet, what is the mission? So I've been lucky that my last three superintendents or four superintendents were always clear on this is what the mission is for you in this space. Because I've asked that question. And because I knew what the mission was, then I can now say, okay, now what do I need to do to prepare myself for this mission? But then not only what do I need to do to prepare myself for the mission, what outcomes are required of me in accomplishing this mission? And as I mapped all these things out, my concern was never, you know, grounded. Now it's not grounded on I don't want to get in trouble or I don't want to do the wrong thing because I know everything that I'm planning, everything I'm doing is in alignment with this greater mission. So I'll give you an example. The school I'm at right now, you know, was the lowest performing middle school in the district, one of the bottom 100 schools in the city. And again, it was very clear. The goal is to turn the school around, to move it in a different direction, rebrand, give it a new identity, rejuvenate the community, the kids, the teachers, everybody who's engaged in the process of the education of children in this school. That was very clear. And with that being said, I started to map out and plan out what were the steps and everything that was going to happen from the day I set foot and hopefully to accomplishing that mission. So with that being said, I was able to kind of like establish this very narrow focus of like, okay, this is what we need to do. But also not be so myopic that I didn't also understand that there were all these other things that I had to do as well, leading to that eventual mission accomplished moment. And I can tell you right now, I'm so far from that, because this is the way I think. But I also know that we've made incredible strides and hit so many benchmarks over the past 18 months and 17 days. But the one thing I can tell you throughout the whole entire process, I've not once been, taken over by fear because I I think I communicated very well what first of all, I believe I had a very clear understanding what the mission was. I've communicated the process to my superintendent, my deputy superintendent, all the people who are supporting me in accomplishing this mission. I've made it very clear to the students, to the parents, to all these key stakeholders. So, and not only that, I never made it about me because yes, I am the principal, but all the principal means is the principal, the main, the person in front, you know. So I'm the principal. At the core, what am I? I'm an educator. I'm a teacher. So I think the role of being a leader of a school community, but at the same time, there's no one in the world that I would have all the answers. There's no one in the world that can do this by myself. So everything I've done has also been in the space of communicating with my staff, my teachers, my school leadership team, my instructional leadership team. Everybody's involved, even down to my school aides and the parent coordinator and the secretary, everyone. Because the other thing too is I don't have to move in fear because I have made it very clear what our collective mission is. Like I know what the mission is, but also everyone's role in the mission, and also how we're going to get there, the vision, right? I think once I read somewhere, and I always get this mixed up. The mission is what the goal is, right? The vision is how do you see yourself getting there. So all these spaces I've always been able to say, okay, now I'm gonna get everybody on the same page. But the great thing about doing that and making it about your people, making it about the work, is I don't move in fear because My ground is covered all across in all that I do. It's only an issue when I make it all about me and I'm moving in my own little bubble and I'm doing everything by myself. Because again, I can't do everything. So when it ends up happening, I'm dropping the ball left and right. And as I'm dropping the ball, then I'm getting nervous. So I'm like, yo, I just messed that up. I just messed that up. I just messed that up. Because I made it all about me versus saying, okay, now how do I build a team and everyone knows what their role is, and there's a system in place so that we're monitoring and we're managing the process. And my job is to be the filter to make sure everybody is doing their part and everybody's moving in the right direction. So 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 that limits fear. And I think a lot of times fear comes from just literally just you're afraid to mess up. And because afraid to mess up, then you're worried about how you're going to be perceived, or if you could if you may get in trouble, if you might get fired, all these different things. I never think about any of those because everything is laid out. How are we going to get from here to there? But not only everything is laid out, there's also knowing that you know having incredible trust on my team. A lot of times, principals struggle because let's be honest here, they don't have a strong team, or they don't trust their team. One of those two. Either you don't have a strong team, and usually if you don't have a strong team and you know you don't have a strong team, then it's hard to truly trust them because you're always, trying to figure out, is what they're doing going to mess up everything, and then when you get to the point where you start to get like paranoid, you're like, I'm just going to do everything myself, which again, as a leader, you cannot do. You cannot go into combat, and I'm using the combat analogy, being part of the military. You can't go to combat by yourself. Like there's no way in the world. Maybe you might be able to last for long enough, maybe. But if you go to combat with a team and everybody knows what their role is, you can survive most situations, you know. But again, as a school leader, you go into spaces and you're so much making this about you and just you by yourself and what you want. I tell this all the time to my team. It's never about what I want. Is always in the best what's in the best interest of the collective. But even in that space, I will give guidance. I will give feedback. I will say, hey, think about this. What about that? To make sure that all of us, have a very clear understanding of what the outcome is supposed to be. That's my ice machine. So if you're hearing that weird dropping sound, listen, it's hot. I'm always drinking fluids, and I need my drinks cold. So that clicking sound was just the ice machine. So I apologize for that. But again, we're all on the same page, and we know where we're going. And that's the thing. So, question: if you're a principal right now, or you're a school leader, you're assistant principal, you're a dean, or you're just a teacher leader, or even if you're just a teacher, and you're constantly just paralyzed by fear, what should you do? First thing is put to paper what is the outcome, what is the mission, what is the outcome supposed to be, what's the mission, so you know what is your north pole, so you know this is where I'm going every time. This is the direction I'm going. This is why I'm here. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. When you establish that, what you need to do now is figure out what are the things that I need to be successful. You know, it might be materials. It might be physical material. I need these things, or it might be also this is how I work. So I need an environment that's structured like this. What do I need for my leadership? You know, because if you know what you need for your leadership, you need to let them know what you need. Because again, often our superintendents, our CEOs, or whoever, I don't know what the structure of organization you're in, or maybe even if you're an assistant principal or you're a teacher leader or a dean, often you assume that you know what your boss or your supervisor wants from you, and because you're making the assumption that there's some kind of like general understanding of what the outcome should be, you're moving like that. Versus saying, what is my mission? What are the goals that you have for me? And and making sure it's very clear. Then you can say, hey, now to make this work, what what tools and resources do I have at my disposal? I'm the kind of person. Listen, I'm a communicator. I need to be able to talk to to my support team. Whether it's my supervisor, whether it's the 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 specialists within the district or whoever it is. I need to know from them, like, can I rely on you to support me? If I can't rely on you to support me, then it's going to be very, very tough. And honestly, if I know that ahead of time, I'm not taking the job. Because again, my belief system is this: I can't do it by myself. I gotta have people there who can guide me, support me. If I'm stuck, they can say, "Hey, here's another resource you need." And I'll tell you right now, my phone, any given day, I'm texting somebody, "Hey, this is happening right now. I need X, Y, Z. This is happening right now. What should I do?" And I've never seen this before. Hey, I want to do this, but and again, as I'm doing that, I'm not saying that I can't do my job. I'm saying one brain can do a lot, but multiple brains can build a nation, can build kingdoms, can build, you know, like wonders of the world. And that collective brain power, I think, I've always brought to my leadership because one thing I always tell myself is this, and I tell people, I have no need whatsoever to be the smartest man in the room. I don't want to be the smartest person, not at all. I want to be the most intelligent, meaning that I'm being able to collect information, process it, and produce next steps. Being able to manage those next steps to the final outcome. But to be the smartest person, where I'm just like, I can get information from anybody because I know everything. That's how you fail as a leader, regardless of whether you're in a school or you're in any other situation. You fail as a leader when you're unable to just admit, I don't have everything that I need to make this work. So let me go out there and find the resources that can enable me to be more effective at this. In supporting my teachers, to supporting my guidance counselors, supporting different facets of my team. And this is regardless of what organization you're in. You might be in medicine or law or whatever other space or corporate America, or whatever you do, sales, finance. You have to not allow yourself to believe that you're the smartest person in the room. That is one of the biggest problems because once you realize you're not the smartest person, guess what ends up happening? Fear kicks in, and you're like, "Oh my God, I don't want to be found out." Imposter syndrome, all these other things. Then next you know, you make dumb mistakes, and then you screw things up. You know, the other thing too I want to say is this: be willing. I guess is this kind of be repetitive. Be willing to say, "I don't know." Not every question, not every situation requires that you know or have understanding on how to resolve it. Sometimes you have to say, listen, I don't know the answer right now. Give me some time, you know, or be able to make quick pivots, because you know that, oh man, I'm realizing this is wrong. I need to shift this way and be able to say, hey, I think we're going the wrong direction. I think we're doing this. Here's the evidence to prove that, or let's look deeper into this and let's make some changes rather than saying, man, because I came up with that idea, if I tell people that I don't know what I'm doing or this is wrong, then they're not gonna trust me. I'm gonna tell you this right now. Trust is broken when you know you're wrong and you're not willing to admit to it. And people are moving with you blindly. Then they realize, wait a minute, we've been played this whole entire time. I've seen it with students, I've seen it with parents, I've seen it with teachers, I've seen it with assistant principals, I've seen it with deans, where this leader was not willing to admit that, hey, I am wrong in this situation, you know. And usually they do it because they're afraid. So again, if we create a situation where things are planned out, there's a clear vision, there's a clear mission, there's a clear established vision, everybody's bought into that space collectively, and the outcome the intended outcome is very clear, and everyone's moving together. Then I'm telling you right now, um, you will fare better than most. It's worked for me, and and I'll tell you this again. This is over the course of three schools as a leader, as the principal, um, 20 years in education, um, from being a dean to where I'm at right now, and in each of those situations being the lead in whether it being a dean or being an assistant principal, whatever the case may be, and making decisions and understanding, like, you know what, if you move in fear, then you make the worst decisions. If you move with a sense of purpose, understanding, and being humble, exercising humility, and saying, hey, I don't know the answer, I need some help, then you will thrive. Um, But yeah, I just want to share that real quick before I get out of here. Kind of like do a little brain dump. I hope this was oh, I hope this was beneficial to somebody out there. And again, I look forward to talking to you. All right, be well.